Hey people, this is the Song of Solomon's. I did a couple other movies in there, and I did the last two lines, 12 and 13, and I did 4. And I was going to read it all, and I got this line 11, and it seems like the most difficult one, but I think you'll find it real interesting and get something out of it. If you look at their interpretation, to the garden of nuts I went down to see the green of the valley, to see whether had budded the vine, had bloomed, and the pomegranates. And so it makes no sense, but it does. But pomegranates, they don't grow on a vine. But this is what makes sense of it right here, to the garden of nuts. It was in the crazy house. And it's here in, it reads backwards, starts with A, it's L-A. And then this reads backwards and forwards after this tax, so it's T-N, the Latin, and then the G-N-T. The Latin gent, the Latin gentleman, the Latin gent, and then it starts with an A, and so it reads backwards, Z-U-G-A, and then this little hatch up here tells you to read the Z one more time with this, the Zagazurdity. And so Zaga is a nut in Latin. It's just not the kind of nut you think, it's the joker, from the Latin joker. I joke. The Latin gent, the joker, zurdity. Z-I-R-D-T-Y, zurdity. You can see it in his pronunciation of absurd, coming from the Latin absurdus, out of tune. To play a joke out of tune. And so that makes total sense of why this is 100% out of tune. The Latin gent of Zuga, the joker zurdity, the joke out of tune. The zerdatiller. You see the little mark underneath that tells you to read up to here. The zerdatiller. A tiller is a direction. The one holding the tiller is steering the boat. The joke of out of tune direction. And then what? And this looks like baby, B-A-B-Y. A baby is green. That's what we call a new guy on the boat. He's green, he's a baby. But it actually reads here, B-A is in a. And then here, B-A-B-Y, in a baby by. So it's not just baby, but in a baby by. The Latin gent, the joker, zerdatiller, out of tune direction, out of direction. What in a baby by? In hell rot, in hell, and not rot, R-O-T, but rot, R-A-W-T, rot, informed, in hell formed, of the valley, in hell formed. And then an extra T up here, T-E-E-P-R-H, Tipra. That's really similar to the sun chakra that they say is beauty. But it's in hell rot, the preach, P-R-H, P-R-C-H, and then other way, the preacher, peach, P-E-E-C-H, and the other way, E. In hell rot to the preacher, the preacher peach. So peach, P-E-C-H-E is, you leave something or someone behind. The Latin gent, the joker, out of direction. What in a baby, in hell rot, to the preacher peach, to the preacher left behind. The G with the dot in it means that NG, and so it's ENG, P, and the final N is a M, in Gypum, the preacher left behind in Gypum. Enzu, E-N-X-U. You see the mark down here telling you how to read that, so you don't read it next, but Enzu. And so Enzu is the ancient Akkadian, Lord of wisdom, Sophia, the Greek Sophia. Lord of wisdom of the moon, son of Enlil and Ninlil. And one of the most prominent myths was the account of how he was conceived and how he was made his way from the underworld, from hell rot. And in some of the writings, Enzu is also Nana, several names. But in some writings, Nana is holding such positions known from personal names, going as far as stating he holds Anuship, Lord of the heavens, and Enlilship. Enlil is the god of wind, air, earth, and storms. So Enlilship, he would be the new god of wind, air, earth, and storms. And Anuship, the god of the heavens. And Lambert assumes that he was regarded as the supreme god by his clergy in and Haran. Has bloomed Enzu and crawled out of his way out of hell where he was wrought. And so I believe this is Tetragrammaton. This is the four-letter name of God. And it's where your word news come from. News. It's east, north, south, and west. All the winds. Harmonies. ERMMNIS. Harmonies. But most of the words ending with ZXU, they say means command. And it means to follow. Su means to follow. In it follow, in it sue. And the Latin, most of the time Latin comes up, they say it's the donkey. The donkey is Saturn. But you can see all these words for command, they all have the zoo. All have the zoo in them. What zoo? And I command. The command, is the zoo. XU. In the garden is usually just EGN. And so the rest of the story above here, the girl was called the hippie. And this is the first time it named the gentleman, the Latin gent, Zuga, the joker, Zerd tiller. What in a baby, in hell, EN, and in, INN. IN is, in its time, but two N's, ENN, is like an inn, a place where you stay. In hell, in HLL, in hell, wrought it, created it, wrought it, and created it. The preacher peached, impeached, get out of there. It left him behind. Engapum is to leave a space between. Engapum Enzu, in its follow, in ENTSU, in its sue, in its follow. Harmonies. There's a gap in the harmonies. The zerdit, the out of tune. So this is going to let me know, reading the top of the story, when it's talking about her, the hippie is going to be talking about Ninlil. And the underworld was on the rug. And in the Sumerian story, it was Enlil's brother Enki or Ea that created man, and Enlil didn't like it at all. He wanted to get rid of him. Up in the second line, did Woody Maker Yod read, the hand read legend, will a rug what the besses, this is where that's the word cannabis comes from, the balsam, the spices. But it's the final M is a S. It's the best from, the best seller out. Bingen is not to feed the flock in the garden, but bingen is, and to gather, is to will lift, LFT. Susans, not lilies, but Susans. The black-eyed Susan, and the reason you would want to lift them would be for the roots, with unsubstantial claims to boost immunity and fight colds, flu, infections. And it can be used as a bandage for snake bites, and make an infusion for treating colds and worms in children. and toxic to cats. So I imagine Solomon writes like this. He had looked into his crystal ball and he knew he was going to be fact-checked if he had wrote everything straight. So everything is twisted in with the gods. You have to understand all the gods, what they're talking about. In Nestle, the click, did a dick, the hype, in nices, in nappin', Hannah, do dick when in fishin' too, when in fishin' new. We may seek him when fishing. They usually give that fishing something like a snare or something like that. When fishing new, a mick of the study of. So that's lines 1, 2, and 4, 11, 12, and 13 I got up. And I'll start reading at this 3, and I'll run the rest of them in order. They read a little easier. And then when I'm done, I'll go through the whole thing after we get all this figured out.
Don't forget, hooty hoot, I won't forget.
Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.